last round, and there was a very consistent theme of what people were asking for. There were a lot of requests for Luis Scott-Vargas, and there were a lot of requests to see this Sultai Ultimatum deck actually combo off, not just get conceded to.
Well, I'm glad that we can make some of your dreams come true in the chat as both players leading off with tap lands in the early turns. Matt Sperling has two of those Explore effects, Explore and Growth Spiral, and so does Luis.
Yeah, Luis has two of those Explore effects plus Cultivate, so certainly winning the ramp battle. But unfortunately for Luis, Matt has the card that Luis prioritized so much, he put an extra copy in the sideboard. Matt has the Narset, and if the Narset comes down, not only will it shut off some of this incidental draw from cards like Explore from Luis, but it'll also give Matt the edge in actually finding the all-important Emergent Ultimatum, which is what all the players are racing towards getting as soon as possible.
Luis, definitely not lacking for lands, manages to get that Cultivate off as well. So this is going to be 6 lands on the battlefield for LSV going up against Matt Sperling's 3, but Sperling has that Narset. So we'll see which of these two paths is more profitable for the players as we go down through the first couple of turns of the game.
Yeah,
How far are we from hard casting this Omniscience?
Quite a bit. Very similar play patterns for both players so far. Luis went Explore Effect into Cultivate. Matt is going Explore Effect into Narset now, so certainly less ramp for him. There's some fear for Matt that Luis is already representing a potential 7 mana, so Emergent Ultimatum at any point off the top could just be game ending, and perhaps that is what leads to Matt wanting to go for another ramp effect there rather than just play Narset.
Wow, we've talked a little bit about Sperling's use of emotes throughout this tournament. Luis did not find the Emergent Ultimatum on the turn when the door was open. He's going to have to settle for a Growth Spiral, but that is a copy of Golos, a Tireless Pilgrim off the top for Luis.
Yeah, we've been highlighting the importance of Emergent Ultimate. Luis countering back here, making sure that Matt isn't having all the fun. We've been talking about how Emergent Ultimatum is such an important part of this deck's game plan, but there is the secondary game plan. There's 3 copies of Golos Tireless Pilgrim in this deck. Now, in the past, we've seen Golos really prioritizing getting cards like Field of the Dead. In some of the colorless ramp sets, we've seen Golos be getting Cascading Cataracts. But here in this deck, your main target is the World Tree. When you get the World Tree, you don't need the other 2 colors of mana to activate Golos. And suddenly, well, 3 random cards, not quite as good as 3 targeted cards, but pretty good still.
Yeah, still pretty good. Narset going digging finds a copy of Explore off the top, so no ultimatum for either player just yet. Sperling does have that Epiphany ready to go. Meanwhile, we see the Golos come down, but if you look at what's going on in Sperling's hand, there is an Extinct Event as well as a Tyrant Squad, and there it is! Emergent Ultimatum! The GGs get put into the stratosphere, and there it is. Emergent Ultimatum, Omniscience, pick number 1. Pick number 2, Final Parting. And Mani, would you like to talk us through what is going on here?
We finally get to see this on stream. The 3 cards chosen: Omniscience, Final Parting, Scholar of the Trove. Now, Luis gives Final Parting back in the deck. This means that Matt will get access to Omniscience, Scholar. Nothing really in the graveyard for Scholar to cast. There's a few cantrip effects. However, with Omniscience coming onto the battlefield, this is what Luis really didn't want to see. Alrund's Epiphany already in hand means that Matt Sperling will take another turn, get to activate Narset again, and there's another Emergent Ultimatum. I think that's just game.
Emergent Ultimatum. Omniscience on the battlefield. This is going to be costing 0 mana. And we have to say thanks to Luis, of course, for not scooping immediately, although, of course, he has seen enough. Let's go to game number 2. Mani, we did it. Omniscience happened.
We did finally get to see it. That That is why that combo is just so scary. Let's say, as the player's sideboard, I'm just going to talk through some of the permutations. Let's say Luis doesn't give the Omniscience to Sperling. Instead, he gives him Scholar of the Trove and Final Parting. Matt would cast the spells on the stack in an order where the Scholar would resolve second, the Final Parting would resolve first. The Final Parting would go and get an Emergent Ultimatum into Matt's hand and put an Alrund's Epiphany in the graveyard. Then the Scholar would resolve, cast the Alrund's Epiphany. Matt would take another turn, Emergent Ultimatum, and do it all over again. Those are just some of the different lines that this deck has access to. Maybe he wants to go for Golos instead. All of these different options are why this deck, when it resolves Emergent Ultimatum, can just end the game.
Love to see it. Thanks for giving us that rundown, Marnie, as we look at these almost identical sideboard strategies. Shark Typhoon coming in, Narset coming in, and maybe we'll get to see that extra copy of Shark Typhoon come into play here for Matt Sperling. Both players with access to Thought Distortion as well, as we look at their openers in game number 2. Top end heavy for both players. Luis does have the Ultimatum as well as an Epiphany and a Mystical Dispute. And Matt is working with Growth Spiral and Golos, but no blue mana for the Growth Spiral yet.
Yeah, no blue mana is very tough for Matt. Luis looking considerably better, but unfortunately for him, no ramp at the moment. So unless he's able to find a way to get that Emergent Ultimatum down sooner, he may be giving Matt Sperling more time than he would like.
So both players with an awkward draw here in the opening few turns. There's a Golos for Luis. And not a lot to do except throw emotes back and forth.
Yeah, something we saw from Matt Sperling, he didn't board out 2 copies of Extinction Event. He only boarded out 1. So he kept in a copy of this board wipe to have here in this match when Luis actually boarded out both of his to bring in the extra copy of Narset he has in his sideboard.
Look at this. Explore was, threatening to ramp Matt towards the Golos a turn earlier, but Luis, noticing that Matt Sperling does not have the blue mana, fires off that Mystical Dispute and gets to be the first to resolve Golos Tireless Pilgrim.
And Hayu, this is insane because Matt Sperling with no blue mana will have to Extinction Event this Golos from Luis Scott-Vargas. However, Luis has an Alrund's Epiphany, a 7th land, and an Emergent Ultimatum. So all he has to do is cast the extra turn and then go for the ultimatum here.
Looks like instead of removing the opposing Golos, Matt's actually going to just play out his own Golos and set himself up in case something goes wrong in Luis's turn. Maybe there's a whiff, maybe, he doesn't have any of the payoffs, maybe, something goes wrong here for Luis, then he can set himself up for a big activation in his own turn. But we know that there is plenty for Luis Scott-Vargas to be doing on this turn.
Now, notably, the copy of Final Parting is already in Luis's hand. So some of the different Emergent Ultimatum combos that I spoke about last round, not quite as prevalent. So Luis will have to go for a different pull here. We can almost assuredly assume that Omniscience is going to be part of the pull, as that's just almost always the case. So he's going for the 2-card combo of Scholar plus Omniscience, but instead this time getting Alrund's Epiphany.
Well, this Emergent Ultimatum is going to the graveyard, so if Sperling gives Luis this Scholar, then Luis Scott-Vargas is going to actually be able to cast that Emergent Ultimatum again.
Unfortunately, Emergent Ultimatum does exile itself, so that is not part of the concern for Matt Sperling. But as is, all he can do is give him Omniscience's Scholar. But Matt has to know the reason Luis doesn't get Final Parting there is because he already has the Final Parting.
Oh, and of course now he can just cast it for 0 thanks to that Omniscience. And here we go. This is going to be the loop again.
I think this is just lethal. You get an Alrund's Epiphany, you put Sublime Epiphany in your graveyard. Oh no! Oh my goodness!
Oh, no!
The bigger
Put it in your hand, bounce the Golos, copy my own Scholar, draw a card. I'm gonna cast something else. Maybe it's Final Parting. Maybe we just keep looping these Sublime Epiphanies.
You bounce your own Scholar to your hand if you would like, and make a token of it. Then you would be able to recast it, and by the time Luis takes the turn, he's just going to have lethal.
This is incredible stuff here from Luis Scott-Vargas. And, that is going to do it. It's a huge attack. Multiple copies of Scholar of the Lost Trove. Sperling going down to -3. And we are going to be seeing a decider here in our feature match right after these messages. Welcome back, my friends, to coverage of the April Strixhaven League weekend. My name is Hayo and I'm here with Mani Davudi. We are in the middle of this matchup from the Rivals League between Luis Scott-Vargas and Matt Sperling. Now, you can see the points totals there for both players on the side. The players are currently at 1-1 in this match. And if Matt Sperling wins, he's going to be moving on to 40 points. But currently, Matt Sperling is tied in first place in this Rivals match. And Luis he's not in the running for making first place in Rivals today. So for Matt, there's a lot on the line for this win. Obviously for Luis, there's also a lot on the line. But for Matt Sperling, he really, really wants to, take this last game and put himself in pole position for that world slot. Let's see whether he can do that as we go down to the feature match. Matt Sperling with final passing in his opener, Emergent Ultimatum, and a Cultivate.
Really decent start for Matt. Great start for Luis as well. He has that Explore and the Cultivate with his own Emergent Ultimatum. He does have a copy of Narset as well, should he need it. But, well, it's all going to come down to the middle turns here of who was able to cast that Emergent Ultimatum first.
So Luis gets the first bit of ramp going with that Explore. And Matt does have the Cultivate here and did find a copy of Explore of his own. So for those who are keeping track, it is 1 Explore and 1 Cultivate for each of these players. Assuming Luis fires the Cultivate off on this turn.
Yeah, I don't think Luis feels like he's in a position where he can afford not to. He has to match Matt's ramp, and at the moment, Matt is going to go to 5 lands first. However, with that Explore, Matt's Emergent Ultimatum is going to come down not this turn, but on his next turn. And for Luis, that's something that's going to be extremely scary. So we may see Luis feel his hand forced to play a card like Narset in order to find some sort of disruption, maybe a mystical dispute. We do see 2 copies coming in for the players.
Oh, so Matt Sperling's actually going to fire off the final parting here, getting the second copy of Emergent Ultimatum and a discussion that came in from the sideboard. You can see Luis's face there as he realizes what is happening. So this Thought Distortion is getting ready to do a number on Luis's hand.
Really interesting here from Matt Sperling. He's giving himself an excellent branching path here in the next couple of turns, because he can just fire off the Thought Distortion, of course, but he can first go Alrund's Epiphany if he wanted to give himself a shot at the Emergent Ultimatum. Now, Luis has a Golos in hand. So yes, he's going to lose his Emergent Ultimatum and his Sublime Epiphany, but Golos can still go ahead and get the World Tree, and then he could just start activating Golos and still be in this. Oh,
mystical dispute as
that's
well
huge!
for Luis. Oh my goodness. Matt Sperling fired off the Thought Distortion, which took away all the non-creature spells from Luis's hand and graveyard. Luis just rips the Mystical Dispute off the top, ready to counter that Emergent Ultimatum next turn. Also has his own copy of Golos. It's just going to take an extra turn right now for good measure. And all of a sudden, despite that huge Thought Distortion play, oh my goodness, finds his own Thought Distortion. You see Matt Sperling, extend the good games. What a series of draws here for Luis Scott-Vargas.
And he still has the dispute. Matt can go Epiphany. Luis can just counter it if he wants. It doesn't even matter. He can save it for Ultimatum. Oh my goodness.
He's going to shut the door entirely. And Matt Sperling knows.
And another dispute.
He knows that dispute and Thought Distortion was drawn, in the last couple of turns by Luis. Breeding Soul, that's not going to help a ton.
Is he playing around it? He's not playing around the second dispute. Luis has it.
Not playing around the second dispute. Luis could just fire off this mystical dispute for full. Oh my goodness.
You see the nod of acknowledgement.
The shame post dispute.
Oh my goodness.
And Luis Scott-Vargas is, ready and waiting. Gonna be able to activate this Golos. Oh my goodness.
Thought Distortion be darned. Luis doesn't care. That's an Auron's Epiphany.
That is an Auron's Epiphany. Oh my goodness. What a sweep by Luis Scott-Vargas in just a few minutes, it seems. This game number 3 almost in the books.
And Luis now has a Castle Vantress. He can scry before activating Golos, trying to set up a better activation if he would like. And once the game is at this point, there's just nothing that Matt can do to come back.
Oh my goodness. We looked at their opening hands. They looked pretty similar. Both had cultivates, both had explores, but Luis.
Oh my god, there's a commit on top. Luis is just going to pass and just Golos for commit if he needs it.
Can Gospel Mimic? It can't copy opposing creatures, so
Luis is going to style on him anyways.
Yeah, well, it's what we've come to expect from Luis Scott-Vargas, the Hall of Famer, and there it is. Good games indeed. A quick 2-on-1 here from Luis Scott-Vargas to take down round 11 against Matt Sperling. Goodness gracious me.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate when you find yourself in this position. You're playing against a teammate this late into a tournament. Matt Sperling, everything on the line playing for Worlds. But for Luis Scott-Vargas, this isn't the end of the Rivals League. So even if he can't get Worlds today, if he's second or third in the league going into the next league weekend, he finds himself in the same position Matt Sperling may find himself in now. And that is so huge for him.
Well, and Matt Sperling may find himself there with him if Eli Kassis can fare better in this round. And let's just have a preview of that one, because we are going to be bringing you the other match from the top of the Rivals Pod A. It's going to be Eli Kassis against Corey Burkhart, who's also on 34 points, just like LSV was before that match. Sultai Ultimatum up against Abzan Midrange. Let's see if Eli Kassis can push himself forward in the running right after these messages. So after this, there's one more round. So if Eli wins this, the next round, the draw's still on, right? If Sperling wins the last. Yeah. If he wins two,
If Eli wins both, he's got it.
he's got it.
But everything else, there's still potential.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to coverage of the April Strixhaven League weekend. My name's Hayi, and I'm here with Mani. We are about to go down and see the second match from the top of Rivals Pod A. So we just saw Matt Sperling lose to Luis Scott-Vargas, so he is going to stay on 39 points. Eli Kassis is also on 39 points. And if Eli can take down this round here, he's going to push himself to 40 points, putting himself just a hair's width ahead of Matt Sperling. Let's have a quick look at the matchup here for Eli. He is bringing that Sultai Ultimatum deck that we have seen, a few members of this team bring. I think we all kind of know what's going on here now. So let's have a quick look over at what his opponent is bringing. It is going to be Corey Burkhart, and Corey has brought Abzan Midrange. The Gabzan Midrange, or so it's called, list that emerged at the Coldham Championships a couple of weeks ago. Let's go down to the action, and as we do, Mani, any predictions?
We just saw this matchup between Reed Duke and Andrea Mangucci, and Reed Duke did not make that look close. This Sultai Ultimatum deck goes so far overhead of what this Abzan midrange deck is doing, and if I was in Matt Sperling's seat right now, I would worry. It is very likely Eli Kassis is going to have a 1-point lead going into the final round of this weekend.
All right, let's see what the players are working with in their opening hands. Corey Burkhart has a Baffling End, Thoughtseize, and Elspeth Conquers Death going up against Double Ultimatum and Elder Gargaroth for Eli Kassis.
Yeah, and it's funny because Corey finds himself in the exact same position as Luis Scott-Vargas, 34 points against Eli's 39. So Eli playing for Worlds. Corey playing to set himself up in the best position he can going into the second Strixhaven League weekend in May.
All right, and it's worth noting here as well that because of the loss that Sperling just took, if Eli wins this match and the next one, then he's going to be locked for top spot.
Right. Into this round, they were tied. Any permutation, any combination of things could have happened. Now, Eli doesn't know it during this match. He was playing at the same time as Luis Scott-Vargas, but if Eli wins, he controls his destiny. Winning 2 rounds in a row now would mean Eli, uncontested, locks up a spot at Worlds and his position in the MPL next year.
All right. Looks like Corey Burkhart did use that Thoughtseize on turn number 1 to have a look at what Eli's hand looks like and get rid of one of those copies of Emergent Ultimatum. Things have not improved since. It's only lands and Ultimatum for Kassis.
Honestly, I don't think he minds that much. Eli's opener, when he had a mulligan choice, was double Ultimatum, 4 lands, and an Elder Gargaroth. he bottomed the Elder Gargaroth. He knows that Corey's deck is full of removal spells. He doesn't care about those. He kept double ultimatum just so he couldn't get Thoughtseize out of one. And if he just goes 3 more lands in a row, he can cast that ultimatum in hand.
Yeah, and you see Corey shake his head a little bit there. He knows that fact as well as you do. Baffling End does stone cold nothing against this deck. Just finds a couple more lands of his own. Elspeth Conquers Death, sometimes, you think of that card as being a very powerful effect against these more controlling strategies, but this ultimatum deck just does not let you untap once the combo goes off. So none of Corey's cards are really doing that much for him right now.
No, he's desperately digging for something like another Thoughtseize effect. Hayu, I would not be shocked to see Corey just play Elspeth Conquers Death on his 6th turn, or next turn, I guess, to prevent Eli from being able to cast Emergent Ultimatum for an extra turn, even if he doesn't have a target for that Elspeth Conquers Death.
Just using that tax on the second mode of Elspeth Conquers Death to delay the inevitable, as it were. And Corey Burkhart, of course, playing Abzan colors, so no access to counter magic in those colors for him.
And there it is.
There it is. I mean, there it is, but, Eli Kassis also just drawing very well indeed, finds Narset off the top.
Yeah, this could give him Cultivate. That's what he's looking for. He's looking for a way to guarantee this ultimatum as soon as possible. May just get a second to protect himself against Thoughtseize, considering, hey, what are you going to do to me?
Yeah,
I think ultimatum is the pick.
I think so too, Manny, and you're right. Eli Kassis does take the second copy of Ultimatum. Corey Burkhart knows that there are now 2 Emergent Ultimatums lined up for not the coming turn, but the turn after that. Yasharn Implacable Earth, Medium Pig joins the hand for Corey Burkhart.
Corey will likely want to play Yasharn here just to at least be able to pressure Narset and just hope Eli doesn't have the 6th land, thin his deck a bit. Eli does have the option of Tyrant Scorning the Yasharn next turn just to keep his Narset alive. Obviously, can't kill it and doesn't want to kill it as long as that ECD is about to go off.
Let's go digging with Narset first. There is a Cultivate. It's going to be a pretty expensive Cultivate, but it will allow Eli to leave up that Tyrant Scorn once the turn passes back over.
Yeah, just has to make sure to play the right land here so he can play the swamp untapped.
Yeah. And there you see it. The upkeep stop is set. And as soon as it goes back over, Eli just thinking about when to use this Tyrant Scorn. No need to hurry. Returning Yasharn to hand, of course, you do let your opponent get a little bit of advantage. Maybe there's some more plains or forests to fetch from the deck, but ultimately protecting the Narset a priority here for Eli.
Yeah, now Corey doesn't know this, but the Omniscience is already in Eli's hand. So his ultimatum piles, he has to basically move down to the second iteration of ultimatum piles that don't include the Omniscience. Unfortunately for Corey, the second iteration of piles from this deck are still insane.
I was gonna say, Manny, isn't that still like a million extra turns and or more ultimata and or winning the game on the spot?
It sure is. And now he can just get Scholar, Alrin's Epiphany, and that final parting and still set up for, because there's already an ultimatum in the graveyard as well, he can just try to take extra turns until he can cast this Omniscience from his hand. He's only 1 land away at this point.
Yeah, he does have a Glassful Mimic available as well, potentially to copy a Scholar. There's so much shenanigans. There's just so many shenanigans going on in this deck, and I love it all.
This deck is unbelievably cool.
So sweet. It's just the coolest thing. And at this late stage in the tournament as well, is that a Cultivate?
That is a Cultivate. He's just trying to ensure that he gets to Omniscience next turn.
a little bit of a slap in the face, to be honest. Like, oh, I'm gonna use 7 mana and my game-ending spell. One of the things I'm gonna get is Cultivate. But of course, the Scholar and the Final Passing are both key here.
Yeah. Corey will likely put the Scholar back in the library because that will stop Eli from doing anything else this turn. But again, the big problem for Corey is his deck doesn't interact with what Eli's doing. Eli doesn't feel pressure to go off this turn.
Right, and he's still at 20 life. I mean, Corey Burkhart just has a Yasharn on the battlefield. That's only 4 power. So even if Corey gets to untap, it's not like in some situations against a more aggressive strategy that you would feel pressured, to close the door immediately. So Eli Kassis content to pass it back over. Oath of Kaya for Corey Burkhart, and these cards just do nothing for Burkhart.
But Hayi, do you know what card does do something? The Mythos of Nethroi. Eli has that Sublime Epiphany as backup now. However, if he tries to use it aggressively at the wrong time, that may allow Corey an avenue to get rid of this Omniscience.
Well, I don't know how many of our viewers had Mythos of Nethroi destroying an Omniscience on their bingo cards for this league weekend, but I can tell you that we in the booth were not expecting that particular interaction to come up, although it would be very exciting if it did.
Oh, it was the middle square on my bingo card. It was basically
It was the middle square?
Yeah, it was a given.
You're just making this up now as you're going along. All right, there is Omniscience on the battlefield. There's Emergent Ultimatum cast for 0. Corey Burkhart can only look on in despair. Go ahead, get all your toys.
Yeah, may as well just get a Gargaroth at this point, considering you've gotten everything else cool out of your deck.
Yeah, you can't even cultivate again because that was the last 2 basics that you found with the previous one. Looks like it is time to put the pressure on, and we might see some copying of that Gargaroth in short order with Glasspool Mimic and Sublime Epiphany available as well to Kassis.
Yeah, I think Corey is going to wave goodbye to the Scholar here, as that is the card that really brings this entire deck together. It is the card that breaks the next few turns in half. So instead, Eli will have to settle for 2 Elder Gargaroths and a measly extra turn.
Well, potentially 3 Elder Gargaroths. Okay, here we go. Mythos of Nethroi. That's going to attempt to destroy Omniscience.
I'm pretty sure Eli's going to say no to that.
Yeah, the biggest no. The 6 mana no. It's going to be counter target spell, bounce target Yasharn, and draw a card.
As it stands, Eli is oh my god, a Narset. Eli is representing 14 damage of Corey's 21 points of life. So still not quite lethal at the end of all this, but it's not going to take much more for Eli to be able to close this out, especially considering he could just draw some cards with Gargaroth next turn.
Yeah, here's Glasspool Mimic. That's going to be making a second Gargaroth. He passes the turn, and that's going to be passing the turn to himself. Let's see what Nasa can find here. How about commit memory?
Goodbye, Corey's hand. Goodbye, this game. Goodbye, everything.
Goodbye, cruel world.
Look at Corey's smirk. He knows that he is not outclassed in play, but outclassed in matchup. He just knows that this is the worst just death sentence he could get handed in a match of Magic in this format.
Yeah, you're just sitting there with an Oath of Kaya and a Baffling End in hand. An opponent, is just making oodles of Gargaroths. He is going to get to untap.
Eli's not even interested in commit memory.
What's the point?
How you draw 25 cards or win the game.
I guess this time I'll pick win the game, Marnie.
That's what Eli did, but I'm not sure if you agree personally.
Eli Kassis wins game 1 in very comfortable fashion. here in our feature match. He's going to put himself in good position now to take that 40 points and get in the lead. Is there anything that Corey's sideboard can provide? I see some Necromancias potentially.
Yep, his sideboard can provide exactly 2 copies of Necromancia. Since we're talking about memes, this is very similar to just Necromancia being a piece of tape just trying to glue this whole crumbling building together. But, if he does have the early Necromancia, he can at least get rid of the ultimatums from Eli, and then he'll just have to deal with the Golos engines and the Scholar engine. It's tough. It's really tough.
Hey, Manny, he also has Casualties of War to destroy Omniscience.
Of course, he sure does.
Necromancia, I mean, Manny, if we're talking about memes, this is like, that one with the water like spurting out of the container, and that guy just slaps like a small piece of tape on it.
I know.
Oh.
Trying real hard.
Let's see whether Necromancia can do anything to help Corey Burkhart here, or whether we're going to see another steamroller of a game from Eli Kassis. Okay, only 2 lands in the opener. Does have the Explore. Shark Typhoon can cycle as well to help hit those land drops for Kassis.
It is honestly, it's not really, but it is almost disrespectful, the hands that Eli is willing to keep in this matchup, just because of how little he knows Corey can do to disrupt his game plan.
Corey on a mull to 5 as well. Nightmare scenario for him. Has a Knight of Autumn and a Yashan. The purpose unclear.
He has a 4-3 and a 4-4, and he's hoping they go the distance.
Well, maybe they do. Eli Kassis does only have the second land.
Yep. Again, ignoring the Shark Typhoon that cycles, Eli just kept a hand of 2 lands, 7-drop, 7-drop, 5-drop.
I mean, he does find the Woodland Cemetery, so it's going to be able to get this mana flowing. Bit of a sigh of relief there for him, but I mean, Corey Burkhart.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. He never didn't have it.
Of course. How could I possibly question the abilities of this deck to find the exact right cards at the right time? Looking at you, Luis Scott-Vargas. There is Knight of Autumn. She's a 4-3. We're going to see some Selesnya beatdowns here from Corey Burkhart. So I suspect this 3-5 Golos is going to be a little bit of a roadblock for that plan if Eli finds the 5th land.
Yeah, Eli would love to Growth Spiral here and then Mystical Dispute, but if he misses that 5th land, it is so bad for him that he just feels forced to go for the Mystical Dispute instead and play it safe.
All right, so does not find the 5th land just yet. Does have a number of Growth Spirals.
Hi, I'm not sure if you noticed the change in posture from Corey there, but when Eli missed that 5th land, Corey just perked up in his chair a little, just leaned forward. You could just notice that he feels the slightest shift in the force. Suddenly, this game looks mildly winnable. And now it's his job to figure out how to push this advantage before Eli finds the next 3 lands that he needs.
Just a little, sliver of light coming in through the doorway now for Corey Burkhart. Skyclave Apparition.
That's
3 mana, 2/2.
Every creature matters.
Yeah, of course. Growth Spiral does not find a land. That's not a land either. So maybe there's a way in here for Corey. And look at him. The relief on his face.
That's a binding.
That is a binding. Shark Typhoon is going to be able to cycle and trade with that Skyclave Apparition. Okay, there's the 5th land for Eli. He's going down to 8 after this attack. Can Corey push through 8 damage?
Corey doesn't have a follow-up creature here, but he does have that Elspeth Conquers Death.
Okay, so in a couple of turns, he's going to be able to make a 3/3.
Well, what he has is Eli. His hope was Golos, get a land, draw a land, Emergent Ultimatum. That's off the table. So now, if Corey draws another removal spell, when Eli deploys, and that's a removal spell.
There it is!
When Eli deploys this Golos next turn, all Corey has to do is Knight of Ultimate down, and Corey will win this game.
That's it! Yeah, there's 2 removal spells. Binding of the Old Gods, that's going to take care of the first Golos. Second Golos will be taken care of by the Knight of Autumn. And, we kind of mockingly said something about Selesnya beatdowns, but it is happening here. That's another uncastable copy of Emergent Ultimatum thanks to the tax on Elspeth Conquers Death.
Corey knows he has it. Corey identified his route to victory.
Wow, it just goes to show, however much the casters go against you in their matchup predictions, there is always a route to victory. Elspeth Conquers Death, that's going to bring back Yashan. That's going to be a 5/5. But it doesn't matter, as Knight of Autumn, one of the modal abilities on that card does let you destroy an artifact. Eli Kassis, with just 2 mana up, cannot pay for that Mystical Dispute.
Hi, this is the risk that Eli took by keeping this greedy hand.
And there it is. You can see the little shake of the head there from Eli Kassis.
Corey praying. There's nothing.
Goes to combat. Oh, it's a growth spiral. Put the land on the battlefield. That is not going to do it. Corey Burkhart. Snatching.
One more, he says. One more, he says.
Oh my goodness.
We've got a match on our hands.
Down a little bit here. We're going to give you guys a little moment to cool off as well as we go away for a few short messages. But when we come back, we will find out whether Eli Kassis can take it down in game number 3. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to coverage of the April Strixhaven League weekend. My name's Hayo. I'm here with Mani. We are about to find out whether Eli Kassis can push through this last game to get himself in the lead of Pod A of Rivals, or whether Corey Burkhart is going to repeat that miraculous victory from the previous game. Let's go down into the action straight away. And as we have a look at the players' opening hands. An awkward one for Kassis. That one is getting sent back. A second.
Oh my god.
Kassis. Burkhart also on the mulligan.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. Is that the 5?
That's the 5.
And
Burkhart also on 5. Burkhart's 5 is incredible.
Yeah, Burkhart has found a 5 that is reasonable. Kassis going down to 4 has found an acceptable amount of mana sources in this one. Oh my goodness.
3 lands ultimatum? Just 4 lands?
3 lands ultimatum. Sure, 3 lands Narset, maybe? I don't know. All right. For Corey, the choice is a little bit easier. Going to keep these value cards: Maze Mine Tome, Wall of Blossoms, and Yorion, as well as those 2 lands. But for Ely, this is a big decision here.
Gargaroth is gone for sure.
Ultimatum
is gone. 3 lands Narset.
All right.
That's the choice. Final answer, Ely?
If Ely wins this game on a mulligan to 4, it will be incredible scenes here as Corey Burkhart finds the 3rd land drop. So his hand is pretty well unlocked. He's going to be able to develop out all the things that he needs.
Matt Sperling's around the world holding their breath watching this game as Ely mulligans to 4 and tries to win.
Yeah, all the Matt Sperlings.
All the Matt Sperlings around the world.
The edges,
Solidarity.
Their seeds. All right. So what to put down on turn number 2 for Burkhart?
And this is really unfortunate for Corey. He put back a Skyclave Apparition. He put back a Binding the Old Gods. He kept cards that draw cards, and Ely has a Narset on 3 that Corey has no answer to now.
He has no answer to it. That Wall of Blossoms will not draw a card when it comes down. This Maze Mine Tome can only scry. Eli Kassis has found the ultimatum and, has the 4th land, has a cycle to maybe find the 5th. Could Kassis do it here with a
Ceratops?
Okay.
Okay, that's 2 turns away.
So Ceratops, that's a plan for, the future.
That's for future Ely to worry about.
Wow, it's for future Ely and future Corey, just in their future match. All right.
Cultivate. That's all Ely's thinking. He's channeling every thought into Cultivate. He has a draw step, he has a Narset activation, and with every fiber of his being, he is thinking Cultivate.
Hey. Commit. What about Commit?
Commit buys another turn against Ceratops.
Yeah, Commit can... Okay, there's some Growth Spiral. There's some Explore effects here for Kassis.
With no extra lands, he doesn't really need the Explore effects.
Okay, so he's just going to pass the turn back with this Commit held up. And that Shifting Ceratops that we saw Corey Burkhart draw that, maybe was his lifeline in this game, looking at least like it's going to be delayed a few turns.
CD. No double white yet.
No double white. So this game is so scrappy. Both players really desperately trying to find what they need. That's not a second white source for the Elspeth Conquers Death, or indeed for the Yorion that is in hand.
If Corey doesn't develop the Ceratops here, Ely would get so much time.
He has to go for it, right?
He has to go for it.
Commit is going to say that is going away in a couple of turns. Corey does have the Maze Mine Tome, so he can scry towards that Ceratops again.
He can, and he can give it haste. So Ceratops will be back next turn if Corey wants it.
Okay, so the future is fast approaching. Aaron's Epiphany, that one doesn't help a ton.
Cycle for 0. You want to be able to foretell Epiphany here. Ely disagrees.
It doesn't cycle for 0, cycles for 2. Finds a land.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. So Eli Kassis just needs 2 more lands to get this ultimatum on the road. If he finds an untapped land next turn, he can pull off that Narset memory combo, except he does not know, of course, that Corey Burkhart has the 5th land to be able to give this Ceratops haste.
Yeah, Narset's gone. All right, Ely needs 2 lands, and if he finds a land this turn, he can... Narset's not gone.
Wait, that's going to face?
Corey doesn't care about that Narset.
Should Corey? Oh my goodness, that's a cultivate.
I think Corey... I don't think he should care about Narset, but I don't think it's going to matter. Corey doesn't have ECD in play. He can't develop it next turn, and even if he does, the tax doesn't kick in on time. Eli Kassis is going to cast Emergent Ultimatum unless Corey Burkhart finds a Thoughtseize with that Maze Mine Tome.
Oh my goodness. We are on tenterhooks here in the booth. Shark token, that's going to come in for 2. Shifting Ceratops has protection from blue, so it's not going to be doing any blocking anytime soon anyway. Nasa, it's still sitting there at 1, but we've seen Corey Burkhart prioritize just getting Eli Kassis dead, which worked well for him in game number 2. Maze finds home. That's going to scry. Thoughtseize, the card that Corey is looking for. There it is!
Found
It's
a
a Thoughtseize on the top!
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
The
this
magic
is wild.
card smiling down on Corey Burkhart. Thoughtseize off the top. That can take the Emergent Ultimatum. Now, it will still leave Kassis with this Aaron's Epiphany money.
He still has Epiphany. He still has Shark Typhoon to cycle on this end step to look for another ultimatum, look for a Scholar of the Lost Trove, look for something. He still has Memory in the graveyard, and now, with this ultimatum getting taken, Memory is a real possibility. It's up to Corey to decide whether he cares enough about the possibility of Memory to attack Narset here.
And he does indeed, deciding that that threat is too big of an issue for next turn. So Narset, it finally goes down to this Shifting Ceratops. Wall of Blossoms can finally draw its card. Night of Autumn was the find. So Eli Kassis has a cycle here in the end step with the Shark Typhoon. Let's see what he can find. It's another Narset and a land, but that is not quite enough to do the combo this turn. So it's going to be the extra turn off the Aaron's Epiphany that, of course, Corey Burkhart already knew about.
Land is full combo. Scholar is an ultimatum.
Of the Lost Trove! What a rip! Is this a singleton copy?
This is a singleton copy. Scholar gets to cast the ultimatum. Ultimatum gets to go get Sublime Epiphany. It can get a Glasspool Mimic. Ultimatum can do essentially at least another Scholar guaranteed here.
Incredible scenes here. Eli Kassis really fighting for that first place on a mulligan to 4 is resolving an Emergent Ultimatum out of his graveyard with a top deck Scholar of the Lost Trove. Here we go. The 3 cards chosen.
I think this is it.
Can Corey, is there any combination which doesn't kill Corey right now?
I don't think so. I haven't gone through all of them. If he gives Eli the final parting plus the Omniscience, final parting can just go get a clone effect like Glasspool Mimic, immediately cast it for free off the Omniscience, copy the Scholar, and Corey can just put a Time Walk effect like Aaron's Epiphany in his graveyard. I don't think Corey has anything.
I think this is it. And, there's plenty of power in the air. There'll be more joining it soon. Corey thinking through all of the permutations available to him. And you see that little nod of the head there, acknowledging that this might have been it for his chances in round number 11. And
he throws out the good game. He knows it.
Gives the Aaron's Epiphany. It gives the Omniscience. There's a Narset as well as a Memory. We're going to get to see Omniscience come down, but, this one is all but done. Corey Burkhart knows what's up.
Oh.
Let's see what Narset finds anyway.
Oh, God.
What about some salt in the wound, Marnie? Or should we say Sultai in the wound?
Corey gives the activation and go off, King.
Yeah. I'm going to just let you do your thing. Have a little victory lap here. Sublime Epiphany. Put a breeding pool in the graveyard. We can copy this Scholar again.
Eli can get 2 Scholars here. He can bounce the Scholar to his own hand and copy it for a token here. Target. Again. Draw a card.
Draw.
Get Scholar back. Get a token. Epiphany again or final party. Oh my God, I love this deck.
This deck is insane. And we are so lucky to see it just firing on all cylinders here in round number 11 for Eli Kassis. All the modes except the counter, of course.
All right. Copy, draw, bounce my Narset. I want another activation.
Oh my god, that's a glass full mimic. It's going to be infinite scholars from here on in.
Corey really letting Eli demonstrate why people are conceding to this deck when that Emergent Ultimatum goes on the stack.
That's 4 Ravens, 2 Sharks, 2 Scholars. Finally, we are going to go to a combat step. Burkhart down to 12, but Eli's just going to be untapping.
Eli's off it.
He's like, no, that's going to do it. Eli Kassis puts himself ahead of the pack at 40 points in the Rivals League with that victory over Corey Burkhart. Wow, what a showing